I have. Maybe a cup. No. Okay. Okay.
Do you need glass or something?
Yeah, better. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamine Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nivasesha Sunyavadi Prachatya De Satarane Om Ganatiminandasya Zana Zana Salakaya Chaksu Simidatan Zena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Zena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vanchakalpatrubhischa Kripasindu Bhaibhacha Patitanam Prabhinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. Please turn off your mobile phones. First rule. Because in Kali Yuga, this is one of the great gifts of Kali, because we can't live without them. They're so practical. But on the other hand, they cause so much distraction. Is that true or not?
Yes.
Are you sure? Yes. But you have a little one, yes? You have smartphone? No. Okay. In any case, I wanted to speak about a specific topic tonight and a different topic from the Bhagavatam tomorrow, and then we will move into japa in the next 2 days after that, perhaps. I wanted to speak about the revelation of Srila Vyasa Deva, which is so important for understanding how the Srimad Bhagavatam came about. How do you say revelation in Hindi? What's the proper word? Yeah, something like that. It means a descent into the consciousness. The difference between spurti and sakshatkar, or sakshad darshan. When something is manifest from one's mind, that's not exactly a revelation. But when the supreme absolute truth enters one's mind and gives one the gift of perfect realization, that is more what a revelation is. The actual entrance of the spiritual into the material realm. So that is exactly what happened to Vyasa Deva. Now the story of how it happened is quite interesting, of course. In the fifth, excuse me, just for a moment. In the 5th chapter of the 1st canto, it begins with Srila Vyasa Deva, who has done so much writing, spiritual writing. He has compiled the Vedas, he has compiled the Puranas, the Mahabharata, all the Itihas, and ultimately he has compiled the Vedanta Sutra. No, but this isn't required to project now. Now's not the time to project this. Yeah, when we're talking about that specific subject. So Srila Vyasa Deva has compiled so much Vedic literature, and in that Vedic literature Krishna himself has been mentioned. But yet, he's done so much, he's still not feeling satisfied. Could you please turn that off? Turn it off. Okay. He's still not feeling satisfied. In some ways, it's the situation of everyone in the material world and even devotees in a sense. Certainly Vyasa Deva he's an empowered incarnation of the Lord. So Krishna is his actions are no different from Krishna's actions in a very real sense. So he's done so many things, but yet there's something missing from his consciousness. And he's thinking and thinking, what could this be? Again, I've done so many things, but yet the full satisfaction was not present. So in his mind, he began thinking that perhaps the problem is that I haven't directly glorified Krishna. And just as he was thinking in this way, by the arrangement of Krishna himself, Sri Narada Muni, his spiritual master, appeared. He came. Now, as soon as Narada Muni appeared, what do you think Srila Vyasa Deva did? What is your name? Sakshi Gopal. What do you think he did, Prabhu? Well, what would you do if you're spiritual master? Yeah, he was meditating, he was thinking, he stood up, he offered his respects, he welcomed him properly, gave him a proper respect due to one's spiritual master. And then immediately, Narada Muni, Sri Narada Muni began speaking to him. And this is again in the 5th chapter. And the first thing he said, you have not actually broadcast, distributed, written. You have not actually broadcast the sublime, the glorious, spotless glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that philosophy, any philosophy, practically speaking, any activity that's not connected to the glorification of the Lord, that philosophy which does not satisfy the senses of the Lord is considered worthless, useless, having no value. So immediately we're getting a hint at what the Bhagavatam's actual message is and what the jiva, the jivatma, the soul, what the great challenge of our life is. And what is that? The great challenge is to somehow or another turn to Krishna and accept that our actual identity, who we actually are, who am I, who I actually am, is I am Krishna's servant. I belong to Krishna. And my natural position, Sanatana Dharma, is to satisfy Krishna. Consciously, willingly, and with great devotion. He is the object, the Vishya, the object of every living entity's natural affection, love, and service. And until that consciousness is awakened within a soul, there is no question of satisfaction for that soul. It's like taking a fish and what's the rest of the example? Sakshi Gopal Prabhu. I'm going to bother you this whole class perhaps, and maybe you too, be careful. What's the rest of the example? It's like taking a fish. You have so much help. Devotees are quite learned here. Taking him out of water. The water in this case, we are the fish in this example, and the water is the natural position for the fish, and our natural position is to be engaged in Krishna's service. And until that is done, we will not feel the satisfaction that we long for. And that has to be done in a very specific way, that engagement. Could it be that someone has their mobile phone on? It could be. Excuse me? Oh, it's a vehicle. Okay, we won't start looking at everyone and find out who's guilty. Until we are engaged with devotion, and that's called bhakti in Krishna's service, we will not be satisfied. This is the message, or part of the basic message of the Bhagavatam. So anyway, the pastime continues. So Narada Muni immediately says that, he points that out to Vyasa Deva. Could it be you've done so much already, but because you have not glorified the Lord? Then the next verse, the 9th verse, although great sage, even though you're a great sage, because there's so many levels of being a sage, even though you are a great sage, you have not broadcast. You have written so many things, but you have not broadcast, broadly described. You have very broadly described the 4 principles, beginning with Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, but you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have not yet described Krishna's glories, and that's in a completely different level, different category than Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. In the Vedas, you have mentioned everything like that. You have led people to understand that this was religiosity, this is the purpose of Shastra, and he's going to explain that you've actually misled them. And then I have to go quite quickly in a sense, because we're just leading to some specific verses of the revelation. What does revelation mean? Not sporty. Sporty means placing the Lord in your mind. But revelation means a descent when the absolute truth, the spiritual, sakshata, it comes directly into your mind. Krishna comes directly into your mind, to your consciousness, to your heart. Would you like that to happen? Hare Krishna, Mars. You okay? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Came all the way just to see you.
All the way from Giriraj. Thank you. Go ahead, Prabhu. You have not yet described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, you are not satisfied. And anything, all the words that we speak, even the words that Srila Vyasa Deva spoke, that don't act on this platform, Narada Muni calls them a pilgrimage place of crows. What city seems to have more crows than any other city that I've ever seen? Huh? Could it be Bombay? perhaps. And those swan-like devotees, they don't find pleasure in the same place that the crows find their pleasure in that type of literature. But on the other hand, Narada Muni says that literature that describes Krishna, the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will create a revolution in the heart. In other words, that now the consciousness of a conditioned soul is focused on what? What is the consciousness of every conditioned soul focused on? Sense gratification or mental gratification, but it's all focused on me, ahankara, vamudhatma. It's all about me. This is the essence of material existence. According to Kapila Muni in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam, this is the basic foundational principle of material existence. It's ahankara, and ahankara combines with each of the 3 modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and the whole material world, gross and subtle, descends from this. Ahankara, a turning one's back on Krishna and it being established in a false identity of who I am. I am no longer Krishna's servant. What am I? I'm anything. I'm an enjoyer, basically. I'm sensual. This is called Maya. This is the action of Maya. The revolution that Sri Narada Muni is speaking about is to change that completely, turn it upside down. To change from me being in the center to Krishna being in the center. That's the purpose of sadhana bhakti. And hearing, as we shall hear, hearing the Bhagavatam, hearing the glories of Krishna, will have that specific result. Maybe slowly or maybe quickly, but it will cause a revolution, a complete changing of the consciousness. And ultimately, it means developing love for Krishna, bhakti, prema bhakti. And that's prema pamato mahan. This is the goal. And then there's one verse here that I find so striking. Oh, it comes a little earlier. He says that, and this I find very humiliating in a very real sense. What does humiliating mean? What does humiliating mean? Excuse me? Not exactly insulting. Excuse me? Yes? Considering? Yes. Suddenly one gets something happens and one gets a feeling that in illusion I'm thinking myself the center of existence and so wonderful and so perfect, and then something happens and I realize that, that's a complete lie. I'm the worst, I'm the lowest, and I don't want anyone to see my face even. And humiliation can be a step towards humility. It doesn't mean humility, but it can be a step towards humility if it causes us to take shelter of Krishna. So, Sri Narada Muni says that everything that we hear or do or read that causes us to interact with the material world from the point of view of ahankara, this entangles us further in material existence. It causes a reaction that causes another reaction and another desire and this and that. So in one sense, I could see that so many things that appear very innocent that we do that seem very simple, they can cause a lot of trouble because they entangle us further in developing material desires, as described in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which cause us to further wander seeking pleasure in the material world, on the tree of material existence. So the great swan-like devotees, as the verse says, they have cut all affinity, attraction for anything on the material level. And their only interest is to taste the sweetness of their relationship with Krishna through hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. And then, after a little while, he gives himself, Narada Muni, he says, oh, I've lost it. Yeah, it's this next verse. He says, Vyasa Deva, your vision, you have amoga drik. Your vision is pure already. Now what you should do, actually just listen to the verse. Ato mahabhaga bhavan amoga drik, suchi shrava satyarato dritavrata. With a great vow, focused attention, rukramasya akila bhanda muktaye samadhinas anusmaratad vachestitam. With great focus, you already have the purity of consciousness, you already have the amoga drik, the purity of vision, and you have, with determination, with great determination, you should focus your consciousness in samadhi. Focus samadhi. Focus consciousness, fixed consciousness on the pastimes of the Lord. Tad vachestita samadhinam anusmaran, remembering the pastimes of the Lord. He gives him this instruction. And from this instruction, to focus fully with your pure consciousness, with your pure vision, with your great determination, with you being empowered already, you focus on the Lord in full meditation. You know what that means? You want to guess? Or should I tell you? It means that I've already spoke for 20 minutes. And my doctor told me, don't speak for more than 20 minutes at one stretch, but I will anyway. And don't tell him, okay? Okay? You won't tell him? Okay. So, following this, Srila Vyasa Deva asked Narada Muni a question. You are amazing. You can travel anywhere in the universe just by your desire. You're so pure. You've changed the hearts of so many individuals. Can you raise your hand if you know an individual who Narada Muni completely changed the heart of? Yes, Prabhu. Mrigali the hunter. Another one. The Haryasva. Oh, yes. And who came after the Haryasvas? Yes, thousands of people. And also the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj. This is the power of someone whose consciousness is on that level. He has the power because of his taste, because of his purity. His words will affect your heart, and you'll want what he has. And this actually was Prabhupada's very great secret, that he had no other desire in his heart other than to please Krishna, and the only way you could be like that is if you have love for Krishna, prema bhakti, on the highest level. And in his association, it was so amazing that it was like entering a bubble. I think of also how many of you have been to Sri Vrindavan Dham? That's everyone. No? Why? Excuse me? Okay. Will you go to Vrindavan soon? Promise? Okay, very good. Then I think Radha Rasbihari heard your promise. So, entering Vrindavan is like entering a bubble, a different universe, practically speaking. And Srila Prabhupada even said that even when a non-devotee comes to Vrindavan, they will experience separation from Krishna. So being in Srila Prabhupada's association was just like entering a bubble of Vrindavan, and there was a sweetness there. But of course one could be in Maya. I actually asked Prabhupada that even in Prabhupada's association one could be in Maya. So I asked him, a little indirectly, I said, how is it that sometimes when we're in the association of a pure devotee, of course I didn't directly mention him, how is it that sometimes we feel liberated, completely free of, and all we want is Krishna, but other times feel completely trapped by Maya, and even more unhappy sometimes, because the contrast between purity and the impurity of the heart is very apparent, very clear. So I asked Prabhupada that, and he answered in a very simple way. He said, the intoxication of Maya is very strong. So therefore, since the intoxication of Maya is very strong, therefore, yes, somehow stay in the association of Krishna and be careful. It's a warning to me and to everyone. So Narada Muni told Vyasa Deva. Raise your hand if you remember what he told Vyasa Deva. Well, you have to raise your hand. And not only that, you have to wait for me to call on you. Yes, Mataji. Well, he said that your fault is you haven't directly glorified Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And you should enter into samadhi and meditate. And then he didn't say exactly what would happen, but the result of that, him following the instructions of Narada Muni, the result was the Srimad Bhagavatam. So after this, there's some more wonderful verses of the Bhagavatam, but then Srila Vyasa Deva asked, how is it that you attain this consciousness, this perfection in Krishna consciousness? And in the 5th and 6th chapter of the first canto, Sri Narada Muni describes how he had been cursed, that's actually in the 7th canto, and then how he took his next birth as the son of a maidservant, and he served the Bhaktivedantas, and he took their prasadam, and they were pleased with him, and he was such a good boy, but then they left. And how many of you know that pastime and read it? Yeah. So we won't speak about that right now. But Narada Muni told that story, that pastime of his, to Srila Vyasa Deva, and how he had cultivated. Actually, Narada Muni had meditated just like he often meditated, and then the Lord, who he usually had spurti of, placed the Lord in his heart. Then the Lord actually came down into his consciousness, and he had Sakshat Darshan. And then he disappeared. And Narada Muni went mad, practically speaking, because it's like the example that's sometimes given is like suddenly you become not 1 crorepati, but you have 100,000 million crores of rupees, and you can have everything in the power, and suddenly it's gone. Now, what are you going to think about all day long from then on? Of course, you'll only think about Krishna, no matter what, but naturally, one will think about, oh, I had this and lost it, I had this, and only if, oh, I made that, oh. When can I get it back? So Narada Muni had realized the greatest, by Krishna's mercy, realized the greatest thing. Krishna had entered his consciousness and he was in complete ecstasy. And then he disappeared. And kindly, the Lord spoke to him in that very lonely place where he was and said, Namam drastami varhati. You won't be able to see me again in this life because your heart is not yet pure. To darshaham kuyogina. And then he instructed Narada, Mataji, would you like to sit in a chair? Would you be more comfortable in a chair? Because we can bring a chair over. Maybe someone could help. Mataji. And Narada Muni, after he wasn't disappointed, he was just thankful that he had that taste by Krishna's mercy. And from then on, he just chanted and chanted and chanted and chanted. He didn't care where he was. He lived out his life. He wandered from one place to the next. He wandered into good situations and bad situations. But no matter where he was, he chanted and remembered Krishna. And that process of constantly chanting and remembering Krishna purified him. That process of living out his life in full remembrance of Krishna due to that one taste only he got. Of course, he got the mercy of the Bhaktivedantas prior to that. But he wanted nothing else but that. And therefore, all impurities from his heart were vanquished by that constant hearing and chanting about Krishna, that constant focus. And then, as it will happen to everyone, one day, there was one American businessman who said that if you live your life as if this is your last day on earth, one day you'll be correct. You understand? It's sort of funny in a not funny way. One day you're going to be correct, and that's what happened to Narada Muni. One day he died, but he didn't die. Just like, who knows the example that the Bhagavatam gives? Just like lightning, just as the lightning bolt and the light happened at exactly the same time. Similarly, the moment he dropped his material body, his spiritual body was completely manifest. Because this was his cultivation. This was his complete sincerity. This was what he wanted, fully, completely. Tatraloyam apimulam ekalam. He wanted nothing other than this, and he acted on that level, and his spiritual body was being cultivated the whole time, and then when his gross body left, there he was in his spiritual identity. So he explained this in answer to the question of Narada Muni, of Vyasa Deva. How did you achieve this exalted state of being, of consciousness? And of course, there's good instruction in that for us all. Perhaps there is. And then, after a little bit more instruction, Narada Muni left Vyasa Deva. And do you know what Vyasa Deva did? Now this may astound you. He followed the instruction that Narada Muni gave him. Of course, it didn't astound anyone. But he did it. Now, before we continue, I would like to ask you to find one or two people to speak to. Just turn around, it could be anyone who's near you, and talk about anything that you heard in this first, it wasn't 20 minutes, but in this first part of this talk that was interesting to you, inspiring for you, instructive to you, and exchange thoughts with another devotee or two devotees or at most three devotees. And we'll do that for a few minutes. Begin, please. Is that clear? Just find someone to talk to who's right next to you. Yeah, and join the group. Huh? Okay. about Krishna. None of the elderly gentlemen want to talk to anyone. Why? Yes, but, oh yeah, okay, but it would be nice if you would exchange ideas and so. Maybe you are shy. You are shy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Talk, talk. Hey, Toti. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Talk about Krishna. How nice. You know, all the devotees in the back, they hide. They don't do what they're told. But why not talk about Krishna to this gentleman? Hi, Lord. 7-year program. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Talk about Krishna. Who will you talk to about Krishna? Who will you talk to? You'll talk to Krishna? Okay. You could also talk to him. He will tell you so many things. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Just another 2 minutes. Keep going though.
mentioned that he had a question about something, and I said I was wondering if you wanted to answer any questions
At the end.
at the end.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you for being so cooperative. Did you have a good talk? Is he a good friend? Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, Narada Muni left, and Srila Vyasa Deva went to a holy place. Now, actually, there's a cave in Badrikashram. Has anyone been there, in that cave in Badrikashram? Yes, where it said that Srila Vyasa Deva wrote the Bhagavad Gita. So, Sutta Goswami Shonaka Rishi is speaking to Sutta Goswami, who's narrating this. He asked, what did Vyasadeva do after Narada Muni left? And Sutta said, he went to the bank of the river Saraswati, and there was a kutir in Samya Pras, that itself was a very spiritual and holy place, because the influence of the holy place or a material place, it influences our consciousness. So he went to a holy place, his own ashram, which was surrounded by badri trees. These they call them in Vrindavan, they call them bear. These little fruits like that are come ripe around Gaur Purnima, just before, and also before, just at Vasant Panchami, which is right at the beginning of February this year, in the spring. And on Vasant Panchami, wrong one. On Vasant Panchami, when people go see the deities, they bring these bear fruits, and they give them to the deities on that day. But Vyasadeva wasn't there. He was in Badrikashram. So he sat down to meditate. He did Achman to purify his consciousness and his body. And then there are 4 verses that describe his meditation and the result of that meditation. Now we can put the first one on. This is in the 7th chapter, the 4th verse of the 7th chapter. I'll read it. Bhakti yogena manasi. Now, these verses are very important. Srila Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas, very mysterious. It was working before when we didn't want it to work. But now, anyway, but you all will listen so carefully that probably after I read these 4 verses, you'll all probably know them by heart, because they're so important. The first one is, Bhakti yogena manasi, samyak pranhite amale. So, his mind, by the process, Bhakti yogena manasi, because he was meditating. So what process did he use to connect to the Supreme Lord? It was by Bhakti Yoga. What's going on over there? Is it up? Yes, there it is. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranahite amale. His mind was amale, it was pure and focused in bhakti, in devotion. because he was so exalted already. Samyak pranite, perfectly he engaged his mind in bhakti. This was the instruction of his spiritual master. And such an important point, too, in our own devotional service, because so often, and a problem is that anything we do every day tends to become mechanical, and we could do it without our even thinking about it, practically speaking. But that won't be bhakti. When we perform the activities of devotional service, there's bhavarupa and chestarupa. Chestarupa, these are the words of Srila Rupa Goswami. Chestarupa means the activity, and bhavarupa means the mood or the bhav that the activity is performed in. So to get the perfect result, not only does the body have to be engaged, but the mind has to be engaged in bhakti. And that often is the difficulty, is that we forget to engage our minds in our service, whether it's the chanting of our beads, on our beads, the Hare Krishna mantra or japa, or, or even seeing the deities. It's happened to me so many times. I'll go in to see the deities, and then I'll offer my obeisances, I'll go like this, then move to the next altar, and then someone will ask me, or say to me, how wonderful the deities were dressed today. And I can't even remember what color cloth they were wearing or anything about it. This is the power of a bad, naughty, non-bhakti mind. And then I wonder, why don't I get the result of Krishna consciousness? And this is one of the main reasons that we don't engage our minds as an offering to Krishna. And that completes it. Krishna says this, Patram pushpam pulam dharam yomam bhakti prayasati taraham. I accept it when things, even if it's a leaf, a flower, or just water, if it's offered to me with bhakti, with devotion, not just mechanically doing it. So bhakti yogena manasi, his mind was engaged in bhakti, fully, samyak pranite, amale, purely, amale without any material contamination, fixed perfectly. And what did he see? Apasyat Purusha Purna. He saw the full Purusha, the Supreme Lord. Now that may be a vehicle going backwards, or it may be a mobile phone. I think it was a vehicle going backwards. He saw the complete Supreme Personality of God. He had a revelation because of his purity. Because of his purity, the Lord descended into his consciousness and he saw everything about him. He saw the Lord, and later it will say Krishna. It's Krishna Parama Purusha. He saw Krishna, he saw all the avatars, but also he saw Maya Chatad Apasrayam. That he saw that Maya, the external energy, was nowhere near him. It was behind him. It was fully under his control. So this itself completely defeats the Mayavad point of view, where they say that Brahman is the ultimate, and when Brahman gets covered by Sattva-gun, then Brahman becomes the Ishvara. the Supreme Lord. That's an incarnation. So they think that Krishna is covered by Maya and all his activities are Maya. Therefore, they're called Mayavadis. And they say that when the Brahman becomes covered by passion, raja, and tama, then he becomes the jiva. Now, how can the external energy, which is under the control of the Lord, cover the Lord? Not possible. So Prabhupada often makes that point, that argument. So in any case, this is what he saw. Through his bhakti, he saw the Supreme Lord, and he saw that the external energy was completely under his control. So here's Srila Prabhupada's translation. Please move to the translation. I'll read it. Yes. But thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control of Pasrayat. Bhakti Yogena Manasi. Does anyone know this verse? Yes, you know it already? You just learned it now? Or you knew it already? Which? Very good. Now there's 3 more for you. No, you should learn this. These are such important verses. Srila Jiva Goswami emphasizes these verses very much. Then the next verse will describe the jivas. Text 5. Yaya samohito jiva. Yeah. Up a little bit more, please. Yaya samohito jiva. Atmanam trigunatmakam. So the jivas, on the other hand, they are illusioned. The jivas, samohito, they're illusioned by that same external energy that is completely behind the Lord and under his control. The jivas, yaya samohito jiva, atmanam, even though they are spirit souls, they are also his energy, they are spiritual in nature, they become under control of Tri Gunatmakam. What are the 3 gunas? Raise your hand, please. Oh yeah. Yes. And say the Sanskrit for those. Very good. What's your name, Prabhu? Huh? Anit. Rohit. Hare Krishna, Rohit Prabhu. Thank you. So they become captivated in illusion, thinking themselves that they want to enjoy. And rather than enjoying, they become controlled, Tri Gunatmakam, by the 3 modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. They're under the control. Rather than being Iswaraham Mahambogi, the controller and the enjoyer, they become prisoners. And what is the result of that? Being influenced by the 3 modes of material nature? Mayam satara pasra, paropi manyate anartha, they become filled with anarthas, means things that have no value, they think are valuable according to the 3 modes of material nature that control them. Tatkritam tapipadyate. And soon as they are filled with these anartha desires, then they are entangled in karma, the laws of material nature and their reactions. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says something similar. Purusha prakriti stohi. Anyone know that verse? Bhunkte prakriti. Yes, go ahead, say it. Yes. Yes, very good, but that wasn't the verse I was thinking of, but that's a very wonderful verse for that. Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte, because they want to prakriti jan, enjoy. And because of the association, you know that one also. Very good. What's the last line? What's the last line? Karanam guna sangasya sarasad. So they have to take another birth after another birth after another birth. Sometimes they're a king, and sometimes, as Prabhupada would often say, they're a worm in... never mind. Trapped due to this illusion, based on their desire to enjoy. They're trapped, and rather than becoming enjoyers, they become prisoners. So this is what he saw. He understood so much. And the living entity, the poor jivas, poor Bhurijan, he gets caught by all these anartas. He thinks they are artha. He thinks they're his wealth. But they're anartha. They cause so much suffering, birth after birth after birth. And then, we'll go to the English, please. Who will read that? You read it, Prabhu.
Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries.
This is describing the situation of Krishna, Maya, and the living entities. Now the next verse, what Vyasa Deva saw is anartha upasamam sakshad. That these anarthas, they are external to the soul. They are not actually the soul, even though we identify with all our desires, with our material minds, with our material bodies. These are not us, just like all these clothes, they're not actually me, they're coverings over me. So these anarthas, they're coverings. They're superfluous, external. But they can, even though they cause so much trouble, they can become mitigated, sakshad, by bhakti yoga adhoksaje. By connecting to Krishna through bhakti, adhoksaji, he who is beyond the material energy. This is what he saw, that the jiva can get free from all these anarthas, from all these coverings. He can get out of prison by the process of bhakti yoga to adhoksaji. And lokasya ajanato vidvam. But the people don't know this. And for this purpose, Chakre Satvita Samhita, Srila Vyasa Deva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam to release us from being trapped by the material energy, illusioned by the material energy. Please read Srila Prabhupada's translation.
The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him.
What does superfluous mean? Covering, not him, but on the external. Not needed either.
Can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service.
What does mitigated mean? Dissolved, removed.
But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasa Deva compiled this Vedic literature, which is
And then Prabhupada explains in his purport here something very important. It is a great transit. Please listen carefully, because I'm going to ask you when I finish this little section, short section, what you remember, if anything struck you. It is a great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, glory, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Revival, or reawakening, of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. And when the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, He may endow him, He may bless him. He may endow him with His loving transcendental service. But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there's at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. Okay, without looking, did anyone remember anything? Raise your hands. Everyone is being shy. If you remember anything, even one word, like mitigated or something like that. Yes, Mataji. Oh, unfortunately, I'm unable to hear.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. A revival of the dormant love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical chanting and hearing of the Lord, names of the Lord, but it depends on the mercy of the Lord.
Thank you. Wholly and solely on the mercy of the Lord. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he often would say, or sometimes would say, he would cite his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, saying that don't try and see Krishna, but act in such a way that Krishna sees you. Somehow or another, act in such a way that Krishna's mercy comes to you, that he sees that this soul is sincerely trying so hard to please me. He's putting me in the center instead of selfishly keeping himself in the center. He's trying to please me with devotion, not mechanically even, but he's trying to please me out of his affection for me, sincerely, wholly, and therefore he bestows upon him, when he so desires, his devotional service. Prabhupada's purports, of course, I'm not reading much of them, but they are very, very powerful and very instructive, and I recommend that you all read them very carefully. Just like if Prabhupada walked in right now, we would all jump up and Jai Prabhupada. But what would we want him to do after we all paid our obeisances and said Jai Prabhupada? What would we want him to do? We'd offer him a big, comfortable seat, and some water, and just hope he would give us some instructions. Here he's doing that. And we should read in that way. And they're not only his instructions, he didn't make any of this up. They're the instructions of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, of instructions of Vyasa Deva, the instructions of his Guru Maharaj, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Jiva Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. So, what was the third verse without looking? Who can remember what the essential message of the third verse was that Vyasa Deva understood? Yes? They don't know, thank you, that the miseries of this world and the material desires that so much attack our consciousness and force us into so many activities that entangle us, these are not us. They're external to us, superfluous, covering, superficial. They're not us, they're not me. And therefore, because the people don't know that Bhakti Yoga at Hokshize, they don't know that Bhakti Yoga can remove all the difficulties of material existence, and therefore to teach them that, how to learn to perform bhakti, prema bhakti ultimately. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam to teach us knowledge and practices and the goal of learning to love Krishna. And now, Hare Krishna, the fourth verse. And listen very carefully to this fourth verse of the revelation of Srila Vyasa Deva through his bhakti. Yasyam vai shuyamananam, simply shuyamananam, just by hearing this Bhagavatam, just by this process of hearing the Bhagavatam, which explains Krishna Parama Purushe, that Krishna, or reveals Krishna as the Parama Purusha, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just by hearing this, what will happen? Bhaktir upadyate pumsan, within the heart, within the consciousness of a pumsa, a person, that bhakti will sprout. It will grow. And bhakti here again means prema bhakti. It will sprout and grow by hearing this Bhagavatam. And shoka moha bhaya pada. It will remove, not only, this is the positive, bhakti, but it will also remove the negative. Shoka means what? Moha. And bhayapita, fear. And that fear is the essential emotion of everyone in the material world. Everyone is afraid, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Defending comes from fear. What are we afraid of in the material world? We're afraid because we're imagining ourselves the center of existence, ahankara vimudama, as Prabhu quoted. We're imagining ourselves, and we all walk around in the bubble of a mind, and in this mind, I'm imagining that I'm the most important person in the world. And it's illusion. And the proof that it's illusion is that I can't convince anyone else that I'm the most important person in the world. I mean, at least that's my experience. It's an illusion. And to maintain that illusion, well, you can't maintain illusion because reality always defeats illusion. So I'm imagining myself, I'm so important, I'm so important, I'm so this, I'm so strong, and thinking I'm going to live forever as my body's getting older and older by day, by day, by day. And then one day, it's that last day. One day, it happens. And the whole illusion that that I'm central, that I'm eternal in this body, it is completely destroyed, because everyone is in a very padam yad vipadam natesam. Everyone in the material world is in a precarious position, but that can be removed. Illusion can be removed by reality, by the sun, Krishna soyasam, maya haya andhakar. And this is what Vyasa Deva saw. So here's Prabhupada's translation. Yeah, after it comes up.
Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness.
What do you think about that? And also, in the second verse of the Bhagavatam, Kritavi Sashutavi Tat Sanat, at once. Get. Yes, at once. Tat Sanat. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna. Punyasavana Kirtanam. Ridyantasto Nibadarani. Krishna acts in the heart. He personally purifies those who are eager to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So this was Vyasadeva's realization, his revelation, these 4 verses. And then after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, improving it in a sense, he taught it to his own son, whose name was Sukadeva Goswami, who was already fully immersed in self-realization and Brahman realization. Now, then Shonaka Rishi asked Suta Goswami, well, he was already fully realized on the Brahman level. Why did Sukadeva want to hear the Srimad? Why did he need further teachings? And then there's a famous verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Sanatana Goswami 63 different ways, the Atmarama verse. You know that verse? You could say it? You like to study and memorize verses? Good, you should continue, please. But the question is, and Prabhupada explains it to some degree in his purport, and our acharyas explain it a little more, that why did Sukadeva Goswami want to learn this Bhagavatam? And soon as, this is described actually earlier too, that soon as he took birth, he was already a mature 16-year-old, he left home immediately. And Vyasadeva called him and called him and called him. This is described earlier. Come back, my son, because he wanted to teach him the Bhagavatam. And Sukadeva Goswami didn't come back because he understood himself as a soul. He understood that who is a father, who is a mother in this world, I'm eternal soul. But then Vyasadeva decided, he thought, how can I get him to come back? He's already Brahman realized. He's Atmarama. He's self-satisfied. What could attract him to come back? And he sent 2 verses. He sent some of his disciples out with 2 verses. One described the compassion of Krishna, and the other described the beauty of Krishna. And when Sukadeva Goswami heard these most beautiful verses, he was so attracted. Where did these verses come from? And he went back and he found out his father had composed them. So that inspired him to study, and therefore later on to speak this Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. Do you know what those 2 verses are? The first one, compassion is, if you know this verse, raise your hand. Aho pakiyam, we'll all say it together. Aho pakiyam stanakalakutam jigham syadhyarapisala vi lebhegatim datri uchitam tatoyam kamva dayalum saranam brajema. Rohit, you're so lucky because you have so many things to learn. You could say what it means. Would anyone like to say approximately what that verse means? Yes, Prabhu. Without looking? No? Yeah, go ahead. You want to say? Okay. Anyone like to say? How come you want to say? Approximately. She was a Paki, she was a witch.
She had come smearing her breast with poison, Kalakutam. Niham Sayaya Pati Asadvi. She is described as Asadvi.
What is a sadvi?
Asadvi means not a sadhu, demon. Levi Gasin Dhatri Niham Satami. She came as Dhatri.
She didn't come as Krishna gave her. She wasn't a devotee, but she was only disguised as a devotee with a motive to kill Krishna. Now, I may be disguised as a devotee, but at least I don't want to kill Krishna. But she came to kill Krishna. But she came in the mood disguised as a mother, and Krishna gave her an eternal position as a datri, a nurse. Kamva dayalum sharanam brajema. What does that mean? Do you remember? Kamva, who could be more merciful? Who's Bhava Grahi Janardana. He sees the good. And then I look at my consciousness, and when I see devotees, talk about he did this, and he did this, and he did this. But Krishna's Bhava Grahi Janardana. He sees. He's compassionate. Who could be more compassionate than Krishna? And the example is Putana. Does that attract you to Krishna? Really? Or just... And the second verse? Bahar pitam natavaravapu kanayo karikaram pribrad vishat kapisam bhajantim chamalyam Randram Vinoradara Sudhya Puryan Gopavrinda Vrindavaranyam Sapada Ramana Pravisad Kirti Kirti. This is the meditation of the gopis as they're thinking about Krishna, and he's entering the forest of Vrindavan wearing a peacock feather on his head and playing his flute, filling the flute up with the nectar of his lips as he dances along with the cowherd boys and Balaram in the forest of Vrindavan. And they're all Gita Kirti, they're all chanting his glories. It's a beautiful scene. So Sukadeva, hearing these verses, was so attracted. His Brahman realization just, he wanted something more sweet. Okay, so we'll end here the my talk on the revelation of Vyasa Deva. Thank you very much for listening carefully. And tomorrow we'll speak about how Vyasa Deva introduces Krishna in a most wonderful way to the readers. Of course, he's introduced him already. But anyway, I don't want to talk about tomorrow too much. But we'll wait for tomorrow to talk about tomorrow. But thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. I think we'll need a microphone.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you mentioned, and then one verse it was mentioned that we should put our mind...
A little slower, please.
We should put our mind cautiously in our activities. And then we will get the good result, like better result.
Then we'll get?
When a better result we will get.
Well,
better.
Of course.
So can you explain this, Prabhuji, how to put mind? Like, generally it's quite difficult for me.
Yeah. The Bhagavad Gita explains this in the purport to, I think it's 1857, that we should think like you're working, like you do service all day, basically. Yeah. And how much are you getting paid? And you're still working all day long? What time do you get up? 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock? What time do you wake up? Huh? 3:45. What time do you go to sleep? Do they at least feed you? Well, that's good. So you're working all day long from early in the morning to late at night for not any pay. Why are you doing that? You should ask that question to yourself. And the obvious answer is you're doing it because you want to be a devotee, increase your devotion. And that means you want to please Krishna. So if we think about who we're trying to please, we'll do our work, our service, not work, but our seva very carefully. I'll do it in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. Let me do this in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. And that's what the spiritual world is like. That everyone there in Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, they're in agreement on one thing, that it is Krishna who is to be pleased. And that's what makes a temple perfect. When Prabhupada said this, that when everyone tries to please Radha Rasa Bihari, the deities, and of course Srila Prabhupada, when they become the center, and I want to please them so much, that I'll make sure I don't fight with any of the devotees. And that takes so much humility to actually want to please the deities. But Prabhupada said that was the key to having a successful community. The deities are in the center. Radha Rasa Bihari are in the center. And Prabhupada, who did he put in? Why did he build the temple? To please Radha Rasa Bihari, because he promised them. It was all about Radha Rasa Bihari. It wasn't about him. It's all about Radha Rasa Bihari. It's all about getting me, bhaktis, getting me out of the center. The illusion that if I'm in the center, then somehow I'll be satisfied and happy. That's Maya's specific work and trick. And because Janato Vidvan, people don't know what will make them happy. Therefore, Srila Vyasa Deva compiled this Satvita Samhita. Did I answer your question? What was your question and what was my answer?
Hare Krishna. Question was how to put mind in Krishna's activities, doing Krishna Seva. And you replied, do it, thinking it, that I am doing it for pleasure of Krishna, Shishra Dharas Bihari.
Try to act in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the last verse, Prabhupada write in the translation that simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotion service will sprout up.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last.
I just want to know in
No,
the...
wait. Just, I couldn't hear after, simply by giving oral reception to this literature.
Reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up. So my question is, can you please explain more deeply regarding giving oral reception? What does it mean by giving oral reception? Because myself hearing from last many years, still the voluntarily desire to serve the Vaishnavas is not coming.
Then how come you came tonight? Do you do service in the temple?
Yeah, we are just trying philosophically, we are understanding, but not the voluntarily the desire is coming.
Say that again. That you said. I heard the material desires are coming, but what did you say right before that?
Okay. Philosophically, we are understanding, Guruji, but not the voluntarily the selfless desire is coming to serve.
Did you ever have a job in the world?
No, Guruji, myself is serving here only as a brahmachari full time.
Did you ever have a job?
Yes, before.
How many years did you work?
1 year.
Yeah. What did you do?
I was teaching
What were you teaching?
chemistry.
Chemistry. Did the students appreciate you? Did the students appreciate you?
Yeah, we can.
You're a good teacher? Oh, of course you won't say yes. But if the student appreciated you, you were teaching them, and then you must have been a good teacher. So, I mean, what comes to my mind immediately, which actually comes from Srila Sukadeva Goswami's words in the 10th canto, that when a teacher gives class or speaks, 3 people are benefited. The person who speaks, the person who asks the question, and the people in general. And of all the people who are benefited, guess who benefits the most?
One who speaks, one who teaches.
Me. Because all you could go to sleep, you can leave, your mind can wander, but I have to be awake and I have to listen to what I'm saying. And second most person is benefited is the person who asks the question because he wants to hear. And the third is, sorry, everyone else. So I suggest that you teach because you're a good teacher. Do you like to study Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, and who should you teach? Who should you teach?
Those who don't know about the Bhagavatam and Gita.
Yeah, there's an unlimited need for teaching, preaching, because there's so much ignorance in the world. So sometimes we're living in the temple and we see that, oh, I have no love for Krishna, which is the nature of bhakti anyway. Mahaprabhu even asked, someone said to him, you love Krishna so much. He said, na prema gandha. I don't even have what to speak of having the substance. I don't even have the fragrance of the substance. It's the nature of bhakti that want anandam buddhi, to want more and more and more. So you want more, I presume, and you want to experience more. So sometimes we don't realize how much we have already. how many blessings we have. And sometimes when we look ahead and we see the goal of Prema Bhakti is so far away, sometimes we have to look behind and see how far we've come also, so we don't get discouraged. Would you like to go back teaching chemistry?
No, like what I want to teach, continue.
Yeah, good. So you teach, you study, and you teach, and try to help others. And the more you can talk about Krishna, the more you'll experience Krishna's mercy. And he'll give you so many gifts. Okay?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you are mentioning that many times we do mechanical
Everything.
activities in mechanically without anything.
Mechanical sadhana bhakti, mechanical. That means with no mind.
Even paying obeisances to the Lord, it just
Yes.
pay and just.
Why are you criticizing me? To be
It's
kind
about
to me.
me.
I'm an old man.
It's about me, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, how to, what are the parameters to see that whether we are doing service with duty mind or for the pleasure of Radha Ras Bihari or Srila Prabhupada or Gurus?
Yeah? Well, you know when you're not doing it, so that means you know when you are doing it also. So we should become conscious of what we're doing and try to improve our consciousness. Krishna consciousness, be conscious of Krishna. And remember, as I said to Prabhu, what's your name, Prabhu? Hari Narayan Prabhu. That, what did I say again? I can't remember. Oh yes, remember why you're doing this. You've given your whole life. How long have you been serving in Radha Rasa Bihari Mandir?
6 years.
6 years. So how old are you now?
35.
35. So you've given 6 years. You've offered that. It's been an offering. So now make it more and more conscious that you bring this to Radha Rasa Bihari. I've given you this, even though I haven't done it with a full heart, but please accept it. You are so kind. You're so kind. You're accepting the service. Sometimes you can bring a flower, or you can. This time when I come in, I'm going to offer my obeisances and a prayer, or offer you a leaf just for your pleasure. So bring some. Consciously endeavor to bring consciousness into the offering that you're already making. And keep hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, teaching, serving, chanting, serving the devotees. Yeah, and there's the fact of serving the devotees. That maybe I don't have any bhakti, but I see some of my seniors, they have so much more affection for Krishna than me. Then let me help them. This is actually the mood of Vrindavan. When one reads the 8th chapter of Madhya Lila carefully, one understands that everyone just tries to bring Radha and Krishna together, because that brings Krishna the most pleasure. We serve the servants. Is that okay?
Yes, Raj.
I tried. This Prabhu and then Mataji, and then it's time to say goodbye until tomorrow.
Hare Krishna.
Not goodbye, but see you tomorrow. Yes.
Prabhuji, just now you was telling him that consciously, while paying obeisances, you can offer something. Consciously bring the consciousness. And previously also I've heard in many lectures of yours that while chanting you say that You can bring Radha Raspberry in front of you, and you can offer, or you can offer a garland. You can offer a garland to them, and you can offer flowers like that. So, question is, while chanting, we were said that we have to hear, chant and hear. And this thing is also there where consciously we bring Radha Krishna, Radha Raspberry in front of us in our mind, and we are offering something. So simultaneously, chanting is also going on, and this thing is also going on where we are offering. And sometimes some devotees, they read some Bhagavatam pastime, the whole pastime, while doing their 16 rounds, they meditate on that whole pastime. And they say also that, because I heard, because I read, and it was going on in my mind, and that 16 rounds happened like that. So, is it okay like that if we are doing, and or we just have to chant and just hear? So can you just put some light here?
Yes, but not now. In 2 days we'll start talking about japa. Is that all right? In 2 days we'll start talking about japa, and that question always comes up.
Okay.
So excuse me, because I want you to come on that day. Is that all right?
If I don't know, that is okay. But if you give now, that is also very nice.
But then I'll answer it very briefly now. The foundational point is hearing. If looking at a picture of Radha Ras Bihari, or looking at the names of the Lord, the mantra written out, or thinking about the pastimes, if it increases the intensity of your hearing, then it's fine. That's a good measure. Because you asked if it's okay to do that. So I gave you a metric, a point of reference so you can see what, because you could also start reading and chanting. And you start reading and chanting, and Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. It could be a distraction, or it can be a focus. So you look at the result and see. But the basic principle is to hear. So you can ask again if you have further questions later, in 2 days from now. Okay?
Okay.
I tried to do it in brief.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Mataji, do you want to say something? This microphone is just now coming. Such cooperation.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, actually my question was also related to japa, but I'll ask you something else. Prabhuji, can you tell us what is the importance for us to go and attend the Mahakumbh?
To?
Go and attend the Mahakumbh Mela. Is it very necessary?
Are you going?
I'm planning to.
Huh?
Yes.
Oh, it's very important. Are you going? Don't bother. Okay. Was that okay? Because at one point in my life, I managed the Vrindavan temple. So you have to learn all these things. Hare Krishna. Okay, There's some books here that we put together if anyone would like to get them. And Krishna willing, we shall see you tomorrow, same time, same place, and we shall discuss the amazing introduction that Srila Vyasa Deva, how he introduces Krishna, the person, the all-attractive Supreme Person. It's actually quite interesting how he does so. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Vyasa Deva ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hare, Sri Rasri Hari Lala ki jai, Hare.
Hare Krishna. So let us thank his guest Bhurijan Prabhu for giving such wonderful insights in this pastime by chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. As Prabhuji has mentioned, then tomorrow also we are here. Prabhuji is there for further discussion. 5:30 the session will start. Please come tomorrow. Also, some wonderful books are there which Prabhuji has written, so devotees can see and purchase. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
And I can sign, if you will loan me your pen, I will sign anyone.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji is available to sign. Somebody is purchasing the books, then Prabhuji can sign also.